Hey guys, Hink here. Today we're going to be discussing 10 reasons why you don't feel that big when you're talking about your manhood. We're going to be talking about all the reasons, at least the top reasons why that is, and actually what you can do about it to improve the situation. So stay tuned. All right, guys, one of the most common things that I see come up on our subreddit, at least getting bigger, is basically some guys that say, I measure blank by blank amount, but yet I don't feel that big. Or I'm X amount, but I still feel small. I see somebody else that has the same measurements as me, but they seem like they're so much bigger. So we're going to talk about all the reasons why that is and literally what you can do to basically correct that situation today. First, we're going to break down basically why you don't feel that big. The number one reason, in my opinion, far and above, is the adult film industry. Yeah, I'm talking about you, probably since a far too young age have been exposed to this disproportionate population of very large members that do not represent the average American or even worldwide population. And so you internalize that as being normal. So the way I the metaphor I use, which may be good, may be bad, let me know in the comments, is like, so if you grow up and you are only around NBA players, that's all you see is NBA players, you're going to think that the average height is going to be like 6'5" because that's all you're around or that's all you see. It's the same thing. You don't go around looking at a bunch of other guys' members, okay, unless you're in like a health community, for example, or something like that. And even then, it's still pretty far and few in between. But if you're looking at adult films all the time, that's all you're going to see is these very large members, and you're going to think that's normal, okay? It's not, okay? I made actually multiple videos about this, but in particular, I made a video that I'll put up here, and it's basically how the adult film industry manipulates reality. They use like wide-angle lenses. They use these teeny tiny actresses that are like 4'10" with teeny tiny hands and teeny tiny forearms. And so you'll see like a video when a guy puts his junk up next to the girl's forearm, and what you don't really notice is that it actually is only going from like here to here, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's as big as her forearm. But the actress's forearm is literally like 6 inches long. And so, I mean, yeah, it's big, no question. I'm not trying to argue that the adult film stars are not big. I'm just saying it's not as big as you might think with the different tricks that they play, okay? Number two reason, you don't understand actual statistics. It kind of goes into number one, but there's a website, it's called calcsd.info, okay? I'll try to put up a screenshot if I can put up a safe for work one here. But so let's say if you can go in here and say, I'm 6 inches by 4.5 inches, where do I fall? And it'll literally be able to tell you, well, if you're 6 inches, then you're basically bigger, you're in like the almost 80th percentile. And it will even tell you that like if you're in a room of 1,000 people, only 219 people would be bigger than you, okay? So it can even break down to the number of like where you stand on that. If you're 4.5 inches in girth, it would tell you that in a room of 1,000, you're basically smack dab in the middle. Like 549 people would be bigger than you. Like if you care for that kind of information, but it's scientific, it can even tell you like what your volume is and how you compare proportionally. And so that can actually give you like real life information, okay? Here's a study here, and it actually was looking at guys that are interested in enlargement surgery, potentially permanently like life altering and life ruining enlargement surgery. The vast majority of them are normal size. There's very few men with actual micro penises that are pursuing enlargement techniques and things like enlargement surgery. So you really need to understand real life statistics, okay? Here's a personal pet peeve of mine. Hot tank heat coming out, full effect right here, but you're fat, okay? There, I said it, you're fat.
Emotional damage.
I'm not fat shaming you. I'm just telling the reality. At least in America, the vast majority, more than 50% of Americans are overweight, and like 40% of them are flat out obese. Okay, I've made a video about this, about like how weight loss can actually lead to a perception of a larger member. There is a metaphor: the smaller the plate, the bigger the steak is going to look, and you can see that in that screenshot right there. It's the same amount of food, but when you have a small plate, it looks way bigger. When you are fat, not only does your whole body proportionately look bigger, which is going to make your junk look smaller, but you also have things like a fat pad that can literally push out and literally obscure or hide more of your actual penis size. And so you will physically look smaller just by being fatter, okay? Guys, I'm not a very big guy to start with, but I lost 30 pounds over this summer, and I can tell you that my junk looks way bigger than it ever has because I'm so much leaner than I've been since I was like 20 years old, because I really focus, but that's another video for another day. There was a guy on our subreddit that made a post. He claimed he was 9 inches long, but said, oh, I don't know why I don't feel that big. But then I pushed him on that. I was like, that's impossible, basically. And he was like, well, I have a 3-inch fat pad. It's like, well, of course, okay? I mean, if you have a 3-inch fat pad, that means you're very, very obese, and it means it's hiding 3 inches of your actual penis. So if you're 9 inches, you're only gonna visibly see 6 inches. And if you're that obese, 6 inches is not gonna look that big, guys. I'm just saying. Those are just facts, okay? You can, oh, you're fat shaming. I'm not, okay? If you're fat, you're fat. Do something about it. Sorry, at me if you want. That being said, love yourself. Don't hate your body just because you're fat. But, you know, if you have an 1.5-inch fat pad and you're like, oh, I don't feel that big, then frickin' lose weight. Like, shut up, stop eating so much, exercise. I know it's not that easy, but it also is that easy. Calories in, calories out. I'm sure somebody's gonna at me, oh, it's not just calories. No, it's calories in, calories out, guys. The end, okay? You can't break the laws of thermodynamics, as my, you know, mentor Greg Doucette would say. So here's one, foreshortening, okay? This is literally this artistic principle where, you know, if you stick your arm out in front of you, this distance is going to look a lot smaller than if you stick it out to the side. It's even demonstrated actually pretty well on there. So when you're looking straight down at your junk, you're going to see this shortened dimension, and it's going to look smaller than it actually is, just because of this literally like this artistic principle. There's 3 main like points, main effects. And the number 2 point is that objects appear to be shorter or more compressed than they actually are. That's what happens when you're looking down. So you're looking down and you're like, oh man, I don't feel that big. And it's partially because of foreshortening. We'll talk about what you can do with that in just a second, but that's also why, like, if you were to see a guy that's the exact same size as you, but you are looking at him in like the locker room or something, and you're like, wow, that guy looks way bigger than me, it's because you don't have that foreshortening effect, because you're not just looking straight down at your D. Dysmorphia, okay? Everybody knows about body dysmorphia, but there's something that's called basically like penile dysmorphia, or even something that's called small penis syndrome. Small penis syndrome, it's a medical ICD-10 code. Well, like, you know, if you don't know what ICD-10 code is, just look it up, okay? But basically, it's an actual diagnosable, billable code where men have a concern over the size of their penis, and it, like, the concerns become obsessive and actually, like, can ruin their lives, okay? And so, you know, here's an article about it here, but you could literally just have dysmorphia about your penis because I still think, like, largely because of adult films, okay? So here's another reason, society, okay? Especially now on shows like Netflix, there's that show like Sex and Life where this guy has this like massive prosthetic hog, and I've talked about like fake penises in Hollywood and like how this has to stop. And so, you know, you're sitting there, you're watching a show with your girl on Netflix, and then you see a guy that has like a 10-inch prosthetic flaccid penis that you know is fake, or you might not know it's fake, and you're like, oh my gosh. And so you both see that and you're like, wow, so that's actually what a penis looks like. You know, what are you gonna think if you're looking down and you have like an average like 3-inch flaccid penis? And so when society, movies, you know, TV shows, even jokes, things like TikTok, when girls are like, if you're not 12 inches or more, don't holler at me, or whatever they do on TikTok. I'm way too old for that crap. But all of that stuff kind of plays with your mind. Girl inches, okay? So girl inches are basically, you know, a nomenclature that just represents that, you know, girls really don't know actual sizes. And so if you were to be with a girl and you were stupid enough to ask like, oh, what's the biggest guy you've ever been with? She might be like, oh, probably 10 inches, when statistically that's like damn near impossible, just because there's 2 reasons for this. Number 1, there's actually been studies like, you know, this study I'll put up here that actually shows that women are terrible with recall. They don't know like actual sizes, okay? And then number 2 is that it comes from guys basically lying. And guys, you know, I always say this, guys that are 5 say they're 7, guys that are 7 say they're 9, and anybody that's basically bigger than 7 says they're 12, pretty much. And so if, you know, you're 7 and you're with a girl and you tell her like, oh, she asked, and you're like, oh, I'm 9 inches, then that's what she's going to think is 9 inches, okay? So, you know, I try not to give girls too much crap for not knowing that. Why else? Men lie to impress their buddies and exaggerate their size, okay? We see it all the time on our subreddit, Getting Bigger. All these guys LARPing about like, oh yeah, gosh, if you go to that Big D problem subreddit, that is the most like, I mean, not the most horrible, but it's just so horrible. All these guys that are like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm so big. Oh, life is so hard. Like, anyways, guys like to lie about it. You know, there's even some like documentaries, and you know, maybe this is my fragile ego and I'm just protecting it, but there was this one guy that was like, oh, my life is so hard. I'm 5'6", but I have like a 9-inch package, and it just showed him, and it was like, in my opinion, like this clearly prosthetic, you know, D that never changed size or shape, and it was always visible in the same amount down his leg. It's like, you know, and he's like, oh, you know, my life is so hard. It's so tough. It's like, dude, come on, man. Like, really? Like, I mean, maybe it is that hard, but it's like, you know, I just think that that is, as the kids say, cap. You could be a big guy. I think this is number 10. You could just be a big guy with big hands. I actually don't have very big hands for my size. You know, I'm 6'5", but you know, my hand length from here to here is only about 7.5 inches. But regardless, from here to here, it's about maybe 4 inches. Maybe 5, I don't know. I actually haven't measured that distance. But, you know, if I put my hand on my junk, it's going to look way different than, you know, my girl who has probably like maybe 3-inch, you know, distance from here to here. It's going to look way different. And so if you have big appendages, if you're just big bone, big structured, okay, it kind of goes back to the obesity thing. But, you know, if you're just a big guy, it's obviously going to look smaller. And here's a bonus one for you. You measured wrong. You're either, you know, you have a ruler and it's more flexible and you're kind of jamming it and it kind of, as a result, it bends. And so it looks like it's bigger than it is. Or you're using like a tailor's tape and you're not starting at 0. That's one of the reasons why you're basically artificially inflating your stats and you don't actually look that big. And kind of similarly, you could also have a ruler that doesn't start at 0. And so you measure and you're actually, you know, let's just say 7 inches, but the ruler has a 1/2 inch gap before it starts. You know, you're going to think you're actually smaller than you are because of that. So it can work both ways. All right, guys, before I get into what you can do about it, please like and subscribe to my channel. It's growing like crazy. I really appreciate your support. I'm trying to put out content, 3 videos, you know, usually at minimum per week. And so it really means a lot if you subscribe. And I get it. You know, I can talk about some taboo stuff. Make a burner account on YouTube, guys, and subscribe to me there, okay? I appreciate it, but let's get back into it. So what can you do about it? Number 1, stop watching adult films, okay? You know, there's recently a debate. It was like, you know, is you know, adult films, are they really addictive? Is it really triggering the dopamine system? Like, I truly think it does. And I think there's pretty clear evidence. And, you know, obviously, you know, Andrew Huberman, you've probably heard of that guy, but, you know, he has a whole podcast about the adult films and how it relates to the dopamine system and how it can totally screw that up. And I'm a firm believer of this. And I've seen the principles. When I do not watch adult films, you know, I feel better. I feel happier. Like I have more energy. I have mental clarity, all of that stuff. But regardless, at the very least, it's detrimental from a like size distortion perspective, okay? I guarantee you, if you stop watching adult films, you will feel better about yourself. So what's number 2? Stop watching adult films, guys. Like, you know, there's some studies have shown like up to 90+% of men actually watch adult films. You got to stop it, okay? If you cannot stop it, at least like search for either small guys or search for like average guys. Like there's even I'm sure there's a whole subreddit like devoted to just average guys. If somebody's in the comments, you know, please, you know, write what that subreddit is. Other guys can look for it, but at least like so your visual representation is actually average size guys. So I've talked about this. Learn real size statistics. Okay, so here's a paper here that actually shows that one of the best published papers that I've come across, and it says that the average erect penis size is 5.17 inches long. 5.1 inches long. There's going to be debate, and some of you guys get so caught up on this crap, it just blows my mind. But it also said in this same paper, you know, published research, that penises longer than 6 inches when erect are rare, with this length of penis falling in the 90th percentile, meaning that you're bigger than 90% of people. Only 10% of people are going to be bigger than you. Those are real stats, guys. You can argue. I'm sure there's going to be somebody debating this in the comments, okay? But just go on CalcD, look for yourself, okay? But here's paper, here's evidence. I'm not just
my source, trust me, bro, or my source. No, I was with a girl, and she said that.
You know, some of you guys are just so stupid. It blows my mind. You know, some of you guys. I love all my supporters out there, though. Stop comparing yourself to others, guys. Stop looking for excuses when you're in a locker room to like take a glance at another guy's junk. And you know, I know we're largely on a subreddit that talks about like penises, and guys are, you know, posting their junk often. But you know, just. If that's triggering to you, then avoid it, okay? Or just, you know, all the pictures are spoilers, so just make sure you don't unspoil the pictures or avoid those posts, okay? But stop comparing yourselves to other. It's like, you know, I almost feel like there's like an arms race in getting bigger right now, like because it's really between, you know, I personally, I don't feel like I'm even in the competition right now. One guy will post and be like, oh, you know, I'm 8.4, and the next guy will be like, I'm 8.5, and the next guy will be like, actually, I'm 8.7, and like, oh, I'm almost 9, like, and it's just like each guy, and it's like, I could give a crap, like, you guys have seen my measurements, like, I'm very happy with that. I don't have to be the biggest guy on the subreddit, and, you know, Do I have the best proof? I think so, but you know, whatever. Next one, lose weight, guys. Like, I get it. It's not as easy as just like, oh, just lose weight. It's like telling people, oh, just stop smoking. I get that. You really just have to lose weight. You know, there's been studies that have shown that for every 30 to 50 pounds lost, you can gain a half an inch to an inch in visible penis length. It can make a life-altering difference. Trust me on this, guys. Like, maybe one day on the subreddit, I'll put some of my pictures up, but you know, I really don't like posting pictures of myself, especially nude. I know that might come as a surprise to some of you guys, but you know, the difference between me being like chiseled and me having an extra 30 pounds of fat and like the size difference, it's night and day. What else could you do? Literally get bigger, guys. That's what our subreddit is about. That's what, you know, most of my posts are about. You can actually increase the size of your member through many different options. And, you know, if you're interested about that, just literally just look at, you know, just look at my channel, okay? Just watch some of the videos. Here's another one. Avoid photos where the foreshortening comes into play. Like, you know, it'd be a bad idea to sit there and just take a photo straight down where it's clearly the foreshortening is in effect, okay? Maybe try it from the side, try it from a different angle, okay? You know, one thing that you can also do is like take a picture of yourself from the side and then like literally like crop out all of your body. And so it's just your member or it's just a little bit of your body, and you would be surprised the difference that it could make. So what else could you do? You can also maximize the size that you have. So guys, if you take like, you know, certainly something like Viagra Cialis and it maximizes like your actual erection quality, you are going to literally be bigger because you're like maximizing your potential. Along with that, I recognize not everybody should be on Viagra Cialis, okay? And then this is kind of a funny one, but you know, date small people, okay?
What do you mean by that?
Whoa, 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 hey, 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 hey.
If you're that insecure, you know, date a very, very tiny girl with very tiny hands, and you'll be like, whoa, this is amazing. You know, it looks so big in her hand. Or, you know, whatever, his hands, I don't discriminate. You know, that's kind of like a little cheap one, guys. Speaking of getting larger, okay, then I really, really appreciate you all. You know, if you all have any tips yourself, please leave them below for somebody else to read, because you might help somebody else or help me. I might have to make a part 2 in this if you guys come up with enough good ideas. So what's helped you along the way? If you need to reach me, right now it's just through my Patreon, Doc Hink, okay? But I do have some stuff in the works, guys, so please sign up for my newsletter so you can be the first alerted to things like my upcoming website, for example. I really appreciate you guys watching. Until the next one, peace and love. Dang, I didn't have a watch on today. Peace and love.